It's Tuesday, October 11th, and this is now on HNN.
We will not cooperate with any other state that tries to prosecute women who receive abortion in Hawaii.
Governor Ige signs an executive order to protect access to reproductive health care services.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party.
Former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard announces she's leaving the Democratic Party.
Closing arguments in the penalty phase of the Parkland, Florida school shooter. I'm Christian Benavides outside the courthouse where the jury will decide whether or not to recommend the death penalty.
These stories plus our Voice of Pride series continues with a personal story of living one's truth on this National Coming Out Day. All that coming up on This Is Now. We're following this developing story new at noon. 3 people are in serious condition after being shocked near Pensacola Street at a HECO worksite. Officials said the incident happened around 8:30 this morning, injuring a 34-year-old, a 36-year-old, and a 56-year-old. EMS said all 3 men suffered first and second degree burns. The roadway was closed for the investigation. Exact details on what led up to the incident are not clear at this time. We've reached out for more details and will bring them to you on the HNN mobile app.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for watching This Is Now. You got Ashley and Dylan here. Also new at noon, Governor Ige has issued an executive order to protect access to abortions in Hawaii, as well as the medical professionals who provide services. Now, this, of course, comes after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. Here's more of what the governor had to say.
We wanted to make sure that we could protect access for our residents, and we have heard that especially the physicians and healthcare providers who are providing services, the expression of concern, especially as states have said that they would be willing to prosecute or pursue action against healthcare providers in other states that are performing services that are not legal in their state. And so we really felt that we wanted to be proactive. So, you know, I am aware that, that people are traveling to states to get access to better health care. The executive order continues in force until it is superseded or repealed. So certainly whoever is elected governor would have the opportunity to issue an executive order of their belief, but it would continue until some other action supersedes or repeals it.
Former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard has announced that she is officially leaving the Democratic Party and has some harsh words.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism.
Gabbard, who was a presidential candidate in 2020, made the announcement on the first episode of a new podcast she's starting. In recent years, she has been at odds with the party and its policies and has been a regular contributor on Fox News. Here's HNN political analyst Colin Moore.
A lot of these points she made were talking points of the, of the far-right Republicans. I mean, talking about guns, religion, anti-white racism. I don't see this as a message directed at Democrats. I mean, trying to convince independent Democrats to leave the party. I think this is a message directed at Republicans, announcing that she is one of them now. Some people would call this opportunistic, and that might be a fair criticism, that she's sort of been all over the political map. So I think it's very difficult for anyone to really say definitively, who is the real Tulsi Gabbard.
Gabbard was once considered a darling of the Democratic Party, giving a speech at the Democratic National Convention in 2016. She also endorsed Democrat Bernie Sanders in his run for president that year. Gabbard stopped short of saying she was joining the Republican Party, however. Her spokesperson says Gabbard is independent. Visitors may soon have to pay to park at popular Maui destinations in Lahaina, Wailuku, and at Southside beaches. Our Chelsea Davis has more on the project that's set to launch next year.
Signs like these emerged during the pandemic because of images like this.
Residents have complained when they want to go to the beach, there isn't parking. No parking equals no access. Local people so often they're like, oh, we gotta get up early and go save our spot down at the beach.
Park Maui is offering a possible solution, a plan for tourists to pay for parking at popular places like Ulua Beach and Kamaole Beach Parks 1, 2, and 3 in South Maui, Lahaina Town, and Wailuku Town. It would still be free for residents with a valid Hawaii state driver's license.
One of the survey questions that we had during the community meetings was whether or not state zip codes should be eligible or whether or not only County of Maui zip codes should be eligible.
That's one of the details that still needs to be decided. Park Maui must also choose a parking operator, and that price tag will then determine the fees for visitors. Consultant Julie Dixon says it will fluctuate between $10 to $30 depending on times and location. Maui's Department of Transportation will get that money.
In some cases, it could be different improvements within the towns, and in hopes that, you could actually have some effect on those types of, could be lighting, it could be signage, it could be poles. I mean, there could be potholes, you name it.
A lot of our residents always say, our parks aren't in the best condition. They'd like to see our bathrooms being really nice and clean.
If all goes well, Park Maui hopes to launch by late spring. Chelsea Davis, Hawaii News Now.
Today is the last day for you to take a survey so the Hawaii State Board of Education can help plan for the future. The BOE is asking how you feel about education and what works well within the system. Billy V has more.
Thank you very much. Now, according to Hawaii Kids Can, there has not been a strategic plan that's been in place by the Board of Education since 2020. We're talking story with the Executive Director of Hawaii Kids Can, David Sunmiyashiro. This survey is a good thing?
Absolutely. I think anytime we're getting the feedback and perspectives of community members and parents, I think that only makes our education system better.
So you have a little bit of a different take. You have a guide out. What is the guide for, and what are you hoping people do with it?
So our hope is that anybody, kapuna, parents, can sit down. When they take that survey, they'll have the background, because the survey doesn't include that. It just has questions, do you think our students are doing well enough? But it doesn't really provide any information or data. And so our guide is really there so you can go side by side and feel confident and read in plain English what's being asked of you.
There have been three things that you're hoping that the Board of Education does: reflect deeply, set big goals, and engage everyone. Kind of explain those.
So for the first one, reflect deeply, I think it's a really simple concept, which is we had a strategic plan that ended in 2020. Unfortunately, we didn't meet most of our targets there. So rather than having to guess and figure out and start over, let's go back to that and say, what did we do well? Why did we miss some of these things? So start there first. Two, for the big goals, set a big goal, think long term. So maybe 2030, but really kind of set a flag in the ground. We're gonna have 90% of our students at least on their proper grade level when it comes to academics. And the last one is engage everyone. I think these meetings, I think the surveys that started that, but really making sure that there's an open line of communication between parents, community members, nonprofits, businesses, with our schools. I think that's really, really important.
You mentioned the board meetings. There are 15 of them across the state of Hawaii that are starting tonight, along with in Maui. So you think that it's also good to give input at these meetings?
Absolutely. I think anytime that we can actually sit down and pull apart what are some of those big issues that we see in our schools, whether or not it's something like student mental health and well-being. We know that depression's a huge issue coming out of the pandemic for many kids. And so having an honest conversation with families about, what does that look like right now? What kind of supports do we need? I think that's important. And then again, going back to foundational academics, only about, based on our last data in 2020, about 50% of kids are reading on grade level. Only about 32% are on grade level for math. So to me, that shows you there's a lot of work to do to catch up. So that includes tutoring, extended school time, all the above. And so having that conversation with families, I think, is really important.
David Samishiro, thanks for being with us. And just a reminder, you can go to our website if you'd like the Hawaii Kids Can guide, if you'd like the link to the survey itself, or you want to find out where the nearest meeting is near you, go to our website at hawaiinewsnow.com. Back to you.
The Biden administration offered a preview of the student loan forgiveness website ahead of its launch, expected later this month. In August, President Biden announced his decision to cancel up to $10,000 in student loan debt for people making less than $125,000 a year, and he's canceling as much as $20,000 for eligible borrowers who are also Pell Grant recipients. Officials say the goal is to begin to get the debt relief processed ahead of January, when student loan payments will begin after a multi-year freeze amid the pandemic. The fate of the man who admitted to one of the nation's deadliest school shootings is in the hands of a jury. Closing arguments began in the penalty trial of Nicholas Cruz, who pleaded guilty to the 2018 massacre in Parkland, Florida. Christian Benavides has more.
And what he did was to murder children at school and their caretakers.
Prosecutors described the horrors of Valentine's Day 2018 to jurors one last time, detailing how Nicholas Cruz carried out the massacre of 17 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. The lead attorney for the state repeatedly mentioned victims by name.
Helen Ramsey and Nicholas Durrett, who were hiding when they were killed.
The prosecution explained to jurors they will have to weigh 7 aggravating factors, presenting some as slam dunks.
Heinous, atrocious, or cruel beyond any reasonable doubt.
The defense has tried to paint their client in a sympathetic light, saying he was poisoned in the womb and doomed from the start.
A broken, brain-damaged, mentally ill young man.
Their only goal at this point, persuading at least one juror to spare his life.
This is your individual moral decision. No one else's.
The victims' parents, spouses, and family members packed the courtroom. Some shed tears. One mother fled into the hallway where she broke down sobbing. The judge prepared the jury to begin deliberations Wednesday.
Anything that can possibly connect to the internet, you cannot bring.
Jurors were told to come with suitcases. They'll be sequestered if they don't reach a decision on the first day. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Fort Lauderdale.
New at noon, iconic actress and singer Angela Lansbury has died at the age of 96. Her career in the entertainment industry spanned over 80 years. In 1984, she achieved worldwide fame as fictional writer and detective Jessica Fletcher in the series Murder, She Wrote, which ran for 12 seasons, becoming one of the longest-running and most popular detective drama series in television history. She held roles in such classic films as Gaslight, State of the Union, The Manchurian Candidate, and Death on the Nile. Lansbury is also known for her roles in classic children's films, including Beauty and the Beast and Mary Poppins Returns.
The coronation of Britain's King Charles III will take place in May. Buckingham Palace announced the new monarch will be crowned at London's Westminster in a ceremony set to follow the traditional pageantry used for anointing monarchs over the last 1,000 years. This, of course, comes after the death of Queen Elizabeth last month. Her coronation as queen on June 2nd, 1953, was the first to be televised and was regarded as a milestone in modernizing the monarchy. All right, as we continue our celebration of Honolulu Pride Month, today is National Coming Out Day. It's a day where people embrace their self-identity and share their truth with those closest to them.
And we want to introduce you now to one business owner who embodies just that as she unapologetically faces the world.
The first memory that I ever had, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years old, was that something was different. And at the time, I felt like something was wrong.
Aloha and welcome. We are the Polly Dollies.
Kalemomi Timoteo runs the Polly Dollies alongside her sister and team of Manavahine. It's an online business that brings designer products to at-home shoppers.
We've faced struggles because I am the business owner. So unfortunately, there are people who don't want to work with us, or me, needless to say. To be honest, it's their loss. I am a transsexual. That means that I identify as female. However, I was born male genetically, but I don't let that define who I am.
She started her lengthy transition process at age 16. To this day, she still faces criticism.
I have been bullied my entire life because of the fact that I was different. I don't allow it to discourage who I am because ignorance is going to be wherever you turn.
Make some noise out there for Tulsi Gabbard.
She's embracing her unique traits not only through her business, but also on stage as Hawaii's first ever Miss Continental Plus. She recently flew to Chicago to represent the islands in the coveted and glamorous competition.
To be on stage at a national level with the best of the best from the country was such a rush of emotions, and I was so proud and honored to showcase my colors and talents there as well. The journey to get to Chicago to present a package, it's definitely not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Timoteo is also celebrating her Poly Pride.
With the Samoan culture, it is accepted to be fa'afafine. However, the Samoan culture is very based on faith, family, and football.
And while she says she didn't turn out to be the football star her father may have wanted, she's blessed to have family support in everything she does.
Being LGBTQ, mahuvahine, or mahukane, and to be viewed at as wrong is actually a colonized point of view, in a sense where that has been a part of our history and our DNA from the start across all of Polynesia and around the world.
She's also using her voice to amplify the ongoing fight for trans rights.
As the first Samoan trans competitor, I know that there are so many girls around the world, in Washington, in American Samoa, Australia, New Zealand, that they too felt that they have been seen and that they have been represented. We should just let everyone be who they want to be. At the core of it, we are humans with feelings and a heart. We have goals, dreams, and aspirations just like a heterosexual person would. And I don't think that we should discredit anyone who is trans.
Yes, what a strong woman she is. And this is a friendly reminder that the Honolulu Pride Parade is happening this Saturday. You can catch the Hawaii News Now team. It starts at 10 a.m. and goes from Magic Island to Waikiki Shell. And we will be streaming a portion of that here on our H&N digital platforms.
Can't wait.
Super exciting. Always so colorful to see those floats
It's going to be
here.
great. And you're doing such a great job on the float.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a very sweet theme. I will say that, though.
All right, switching gears now to weather. Let's take a live look at our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Beautiful there. The temperature, 68 degrees. Now let's get a check on our weather here at home. Here's our friend, Guy Hagi.
Get ready for some hot, humid weather, and due in part because of these winds. They will remain light and variable for the next several days, and that leads to high humidity levels as well as afternoon cloud buildups and a few afternoon downpours, maybe even thunderstorms. And notice with the wind model, those lack of streamlines mean lack of winds at least until Friday. And then Friday, a trade wind breeze starts to come back in. They'll kind of firm up over the weekend, so things are looking better for the weekend. But until then, we got to get through this hot, humid weather, this stretch which runs today, tomorrow, and Thursday. And we'll get scattered showers, mostly cloudy skies. And we'll get some afternoon thunderstorms for a handful of spots. Widespread thunderstorms, no, but some places will get some heavy rain from time to time today, tomorrow, and Thursday. And then slowly the weather starts to clean up when the trade winds come back on Friday.
Thank you so much, Guy. Let's see what the internet is talking about. Well, NASA says its asteroid strike was a smashing success and resulted in a big nudge. So if you remember, the DART spacecraft carved a crater into the asteroid Dimorphos on September 26th, and it hurled debris out into space and created a comet-like trail of dust and rubble stretching several thousand miles. Now, scientists say it took consecutive nights of telescope observations from Chile and South Africa to determine how much the impact altered the path of the 525-foot asteroid around its companion, which is a much bigger space rock. So the two bodies originally were less than a mile apart, and now scientists say they're tens of yards closer. So it works.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was going to work,
I
to be
know.
honest, but science. Yay for science.
Good to know if it ever happens in the future.
Yes, yes.
We'll be
Something
okay.
else that's very exciting is today is Amazon Prime Day.
Oh,
The deals are
yeah.
arriving early. If you want to start your holiday shopping now, like I said, it is Amazon Prime Day. This is day one, that is, of Amazon's new Prime Early Access sale. Today and tomorrow, Prime members can find exclusive deep discounts on everything from electronics, home and kitchen products, must-have toys, beauty favorites, and fashion. Prime Day typically only happens once a year in June, so this is definitely a bonus for people wanting some awesome deals.
Oh yeah, I gotta check out those sales.
Yeah, I actually had a goal this year that I would get all my Christmas shopping done by December 1st because I'm always stressed out in December and I want to enjoy it this year. So maybe I'll go shopping after this.
Check it out.
Yes.
All right, time for some good news. An Alaska family found something very interesting while on a not so regular walk. David Allgood explains.
The historic storm that slammed into western Alaska weeks ago impacted thousands, destroying property and upending lives. But that same storm surge, as devastating as it was, revealed what once was covered.
Yeah, Murbach, we never had a storm like that in years. And it sure skied up the bank.
That's Joseph Nasick and his wife Andrea from Elam, Alaska.
We usually go walk the day after a storm.
Looking for bones and artifacts, and well, 2 weeks ago, the couple hit the Jurassic jackpot.
We were walking maybe about 75 yards apart, and she told me she found a bone, and I asked her if it was whole, and she said, yeah. So I looked over, and it was over half her height, and I got all excited.
Here's a picture of Andrea and that bone she found.
As I was lifting it up out of the mud, I thought to myself, it's kind of heavy. So I kept lifting it up. And I told my husband I found a huge bone, and he asked if it was whole. I looked at it and I said, yeah. He got excited.
Yes, right. Just look at the size of that mammoth femur. It's as big as her son. Joseph had to backpack it out. And get this.
This is my wife's first time walking, and it's been a few years since I started walking.
So this was beginner's luck? Well, it's not the only thing the two have found.
We found anything from toe bones to vertebrae to partials of skull. And
look at the array of all these artifacts. And this big mammoth bone, it's not their biggest find. Check out this blue mammoth tusk.
We went across the bay right after Murbach, and we found a 105-pound, 7-foot blue tusk.
Extremely rare. Only 2% of fossilized tusks are blue because of vivianite, an iron phosphate. Not only rare, but valuable.
Depending on the state and the wholeness, somewhere between 20 and upwards of $70,000.
Wow. So this blue find, that's life-changing money.
A big boost for us.
And Joseph and Andrea could use the money like all of us. They're not alone.
My wife and I have been married for 4 years, and we have 4 children.
It's pretty magical. Even this guy, River, needs room and some FaceTime.
His name is River.
Hey, River. How you doing?
We're living in an apartment here in Elam, and we're hoping to build our own house.
The bone that's going to buy a home. So the storm that took homes is, at least for these two, going to build a home. And that's the all good news.
Thanks for watching. This is Now. First at 4 on KHNL is coming up.